Banana fritters probably originated in Jamaica. Traditionally, the bananas are mashed up, battered, and then deep fried in oil. And this is exactly why you don't see them very often anymore. They tend to be like little sponges of oil, and depending on the restaurant, that oil might have been used for frying fish the same night. Back in the day, when dining required tableside service with lots of flambeing and other ritualistic presentations, banana fritters were often made a very different way. These are not oily, and the texture and flavor is much better too.
Before I go on, I'm going to take a moment here to talk about one of my pet peeves I have never mentioned yet. This is what Bacardi Black looked like up until fairly recently, a year or two ago. They changed the labeling to this so that it says Bacardi Carta Negra. The Bacardi company claims this is the same product. If you taste these, you take a little bit of one, a little bit of the other, and you can't taste the difference. Don't call yourself a bartender. You have no sense of taste at all. This is complete crap. This was a great product. It was Bacardi's only affordable, really good product. It's made from 9 different rums that were custom blended. Amazingly good product for the money. This is like good if you want to throw it on some insects and set fire to them, because it just tastes like. Now, since the batter needs to stand for a few minutes before you use it, we'll make this next. I've already weighed out here 15 grams of rice flour, 15 grams of cornstarch, and I'm going to add 1 egg to this, and 25 milliliters of cream, and just a tiny pinch, just a pinch of salt. And you whisk it until it's free of lumps, and that's it. Into the electric spice mill, I've already got a tablespoon of brown sugar. I'm adding about 6 whole allspice. I'm going to grind this to powder. Cut the banana on the bias about this thick. Now when you got it, then add this mixture of the allspice and the brown sugar, and you bruise the bananas. That's what this is called. You bang them into each other, and you'll see this thick syrupy paste develops on the outside surface like this. That's what you want. Now add an excess. This is just regular all-purpose flour. There's no exact amount. Just add an excess, more than they'll absorb. Shake them around a little bit. Don't be too vigorous because you don't want to break the pieces up. Make sure that they're well coated here. And after they're well coated, you're just going to let them stand for about 1 minute. Into a non-stick skillet, begin melting the butter here. Now I picked the bananas out of the flour, and I'm going to pour the batter over it. We actually have more flour and batter than we need for this amount of bananas. This is really, you could do almost twice as much with this amount of flour. And we're just going to gently toss this, make sure that it's all coated evenly. Wait for that butter to foam up. Separate banana pieces, make sure that they've all got batter over the top of them. Like I said, this is really enough batter for twice as much bananas, but these ingredients are cheap. I mean, you get 1 egg and some flour. I mean, if you waste a little bit, it's not going to be tragic. When the butter's foamed up and it's getting hot, but it's not browning or anything yet, then you begin adding the banana pieces to the butter. Like this, and you add a little bit more of the batter over the top of them. Just a little tiny bit. The heat right now is on 6 out of 1 to 10. I'm just going to cook them like this until there's a good solid skin formed on the bottom, about 3 minutes. Now I'm turning the heat down to about 5. There's a skin that's formed. You have to begin turning each one of these over one by one. You give them about a minute on this side, and then we're going to move them off the heat, as you'll see. Okay, I've moved these away from the heat. The heat is still on the other burner, but the pan is been set off to the side. We're going to let it cool for just 30, 45 seconds, something like that, because we want a long, slow flambe here. We don't want big, hot, gushing flame. Here's the rum. If I just left this on the flame, this would burn out very quickly, but we want a long, slow flame here. And if you see the batter start to catch fire at the edges of the banana, which frequently happens, just blow it out. Now as the flame starts to die down, we'll move it back to the heat, and this will pick up the flame again, as you can see. We want a good long flame here, but we don't want to actually burn anything. Okay, this is pretty good. Now it's back on the heat. Now we turn these over, and the dry side goes down into the rum to get soft and pick up some of that flavor. Now that they're all turned over, we're going to sprinkle some powdered sugar over the top. Some of it's going to go down into the sauce, and that's a good thing because we want the powdered sugar to thicken it up and sweeten it up some. Now I'm going to turn the heat down from 5 down to about 2 to 3. Let this cook slowly a little bit more. Yeah, after a couple minutes, we're going to turn it over. Confectioner's sugar side down again. We're almost done here. Almost done. And we flip it back over one more time. The heat's still now on very low setting, like 2 to 3. And when we're happy that it's cooked all the way through on the other side, then we'll transfer it to a plate and put the last little bit of powdered sugar on.
I'm very pleased to announce the release of Volume 3, The Focus on Food Chemistry. I want to clear up a few things about these 3 volumes. First, they all contain completely different information. There's no duplication, they're not revisions. When I wrote Volume 1, I had 2.5 years of YouTube videos to cover. People had been asking me for the printed list of ingredients for all of those dishes, and so I obliged. There are recipes with stepwise directions and many tips offered throughout, as well as an extensive history of Russian cuisine over the last 1,000 years, but Volume 1 is very different from Volume 2 and 3. In Volumes 2 and 3, I only had about 9 months of YouTube recipes to cover in each, so I was able to provide stepwise directions for everything. In Volume 2, I included a lot of additional information about cooking and some simple examples of flavor chemistry to set the stage for Volume 3. While Volume 2 hopefully got you thinking about some of the processes that go on in cooking and how flavors are expressed and sensed at the molecular level, the topic was painted with pretty broad strokes to make it easy to digest. Pun intended. Volume 3 is a milestone of the series, in which I have included an entire introductory course in food chemistry, which is why Volume 3 is about 70 pages longer than Volume 2. And if you just want the recipes, that's okay too. You don't have to read the first few chapters, but if you've ever been curious about what influences tastes and flavors and the rationale for deciding cooking times and temperatures and why things taste different when they're combined in different ways, this book will answer many of those questions. It also paves the way for Volume 4, which will be next year. I'm pleased to announce a new, completely different type of cookbook. If you watch my channel regularly, you know that the recipes I present are usually centered on meat or seafood and seldom vegetarian dishes. This new book is a departure from that norm. Only vegetables, fruits, eggs, and dairy are used in dozens of recipes here. The key here is that these recipes don't taste like typical vegetarian food. This isn't a bunch of salads and bean sprouts wrapped in pita bread. These are completely satisfying, hearty dishes that use the science of food chemistry to produce meat-like aromas and flavors. But don't worry, there's no weird chemicals involved, just ordinary foods and spices that you can get in any grocery store. This really is an entirely new approach. These are flavorful, filling meals produced by a distinctive cooking method and unexpected combinations of ingredients. Once you see how it's done and understand the method, you can apply these preparations to some of your own recipes and transform them into vegetarian dishes too. Also look for my cocktail book, Cocktails of the South Pacific and Beyond, Advanced Mixology, available through Amazon online. If you want to know more about my adventures as a chef around the world and have some great laughs along the way, be sure to check out the video tour of my book, 40 Years in One Night. It's up on YouTube right now. Click the link.